So my moment of like terror was like leaving Raven August 31st. It was like 2017, right?
You had bought a house.
And I already owned a house. Second kid on the way. I remortgaged my house to pull out $20,000. Like, I don't even know if that's worth the fees to remortgage your house. Now you look at it like 20 grand. Like people remortgage their house to pull out 100. But I literally had nothing else. So I was like, I need a $20,000 cushion in order to do real estate.
Welcome to the No Two Roads podcast with Darren Leffers and Brent Rook.
Welcome to the No Two Roads podcast, episode number 1. We are your hosts. It is Darren, business partner here at Leffers Rook, and myself. We started this real estate company almost coming on 10 years ago now, and it's grown. And today we're going to talk a bit about our story. So please follow along, like and subscribe. And Darren, why did we start a podcast? Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, so we weren't sure what to name it, but we knew what we wanted to do. We came up with the name No Two Roads, and I think it reflects what we want to do pretty well. So it's interview people that we know that are businessmen or women and the road that they've gone through to grow their business. There might be a little bit of real estate sprinkled in there. The desire for this or the passion for this, I think, is to get to know people. Everybody's got a different story. As realtors, we get to see that when we deal with people every day, and everybody has a way different story than the next person. So that's kind of the exciting part, and we're going to learn on the way.
Yeah, seeing how people grow businesses and where they came from to become who they are is just so cool. And we've both had the opportunity to meet so many awesome people. So can I kind of share some of those stories with the world?
Yeah. So we're going to try pick and pry to get those stories out of people. I know for myself, I never thought I'm going to be a realtor, but now that I'm a realtor, I can look back and be like, everything I've done before prepared me for this. So well, I'm sure we'll get into that.
Yeah, well, let's do that. So today's story is going to be the origins of Mr. Darren here, what makes him tick, and then myself, where I came from, and then how we ended up starting this company, Leffers and Rook, together. So yeah, you want to dive in?
Sure, let's do it.
Let's do it, man. All right, well, I guess first comes first. Where are you from?
So a lot of people will say Smithers. I'm from Houston, BC, born in Smithers, but lived in Houston, BC.
They're sensitive about if you say Smithers, by the way.
If I was to ever move back, I tell people it'd be Talcott or Smithers because they are beautiful, but Houston is good in its own right. So, born in Houston, stayed there right up till high school was done.
How many people live there?
At one time, the sign coming into Houston, and you can almost see the sign going out of Houston at the same time. You can't really. 4,300. So I think now it's a little less. I think it's 3,500.
Like a chunk of the population left.
Two golf courses.
You moved away. Yeah.
2 golf courses.
Okay, yeah, that's right. Okay.
Never had a hard time finding a tee time.
No. Some perks.
Well, tied to that, to get a family pass for the whole year, which was myself, my 4 siblings, and my parents, it was $1,000. And me and one of my brothers would have well surpassed that just with our 36 holes a day in the summer. So that was a perk of a small town.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So you went to school there, you grew up there. What was like family life like? You got how many siblings?
Yeah, so I got an older sister, 3 younger brothers. Older sister's awesome. She's always a good example. I tried to be a good example, I want to say, to my 3 younger brothers. My next brother down might say otherwise. I'd probably poke and prod him until he spazzed, and then I'd pin him down and tell him he had to stop.
So you were the strongest brother?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Verified.
Probably till a few years ago.
Yeah. All right. Middle age.
Summers were scrub baseball with neighbor Sean Mintz across the way, good friend. It would be 3 of us, and it would be, you can throw the ball at someone to get them out, but we'd play that till we argued whether someone was safe or out, go back home, and within half an hour, we all back out there again because we were bored. So summers were baseball, road hockey, tennis.
Big sports fan.
Yeah, everything. And then we had seasons, right? So summer was all that, road hockey. And then the fall would come and the snow would start falling, so you couldn't play road hockey anymore because you'd be shooting snow at each other.
It's cold up there.
So then you start playing hockey. But sometimes we still would play road hockey once we had ice on the roads, right? It was fun to run and slide. And then we couldn't play again in the spring when all the snow melted and all the gravel came up because you'd be firing gravel at each other. But then once all that was swept up, back to road hockey again. Winters were full of hockey and sledding.
So, and I'm gonna go a little bit into your dad a bit, because obviously that impacts who we are, our dads. You know, hopefully for those watching too, like your dad was a big mentor in your life.
Totally.
So, and he's got kind of an interesting story. Like, he is a forager of forests, natural resources, some interesting stuff. So what did he do, and like how did that impact you?
I didn't know you knew the word forager.
I'm impressed with myself right now.
So my dad lived in a different era where I want to say that most dads in this, it's like you showed your love by working hard. And I'm not saying that's the only way my dad showed love, but like he was a hard worker. He'd leave early in the morning, come home late at night. He worked for the same company, Canfor. It was Northwood and Canfor for 40 years. So that shows something. More seniority than anybody there. He started, I think, just working in the bush. Not exactly sure what that was, but it turned into silviculture supervising. So he would go and he would lay out the roads. He would lay out, I hope if he watches this that I'm telling this right. He would lay out the cut blocks of what they should cut, that sort of thing. And then he would manage the reforestation when that time came. He did that part for many years, and then did timber buying for the mill. And all throughout this, he was, I guess, in real estate, buying and selling properties. He would buy the property, log the property, and then resell the property.
Smart guy, invest in real estate.
Yeah. But in his own, and it was slow to get into it, and it was in his own way.
Yeah.
And then the foraging kind of came later as a bit of a hobby.
Chaga.
Yeah. So Chaga,
Right?
if you don't know what Chaga is, look it up. It grows on the side of birch trees. You have to climb up the tree. You have to chisel it down, and then you dry it, and then you boil water. You boil it in water, and it turns into tea. It's good for your joints. And supposedly it's like, people have been using this for 4,000
But I heard this stuff's expensive.
Oh, yeah.
And I heard that you're like in the bush, and especially after a forest fire, right? Isn't it the only thing left, or something?
No,
there's mosquitoes everywhere.
Oh, there's mosquitoes everywhere.
Like, we're talking bad, right? Really bad.
I used to work in the bush, and I remember power sawing through a tree with a t-shirt on, and it was like 8 mosquitoes on this arm and 5 on this arm, and you can't swat mosquitoes with running a power saw. So I got immune to bugs that summer. But so yes, they're bad.
All for the Chaga.
Well, that he's smart. If you keep moving, you don't notice the bugs as much. And we had like 99% deep cancer-causing bug spray all the time. We probably didn't know at the time it was cancer-causing, but anyway.
Were you a Chaga dealer for him?
No, so he only did this like in the last 5 to 8 years. He never did that before that. But he loves it because it's treasure hunting. So he now has an iPad. He can map out where he's walked, and he'll see where Chaga is, and then he'll go grab a ladder, or one of my nieces and nephews or my brother-in-law go there with the ladder, climb up, knock it down. I think it sells for $30 a pound dried. Yeah.
Crazy.
But like you can get chunks like this big. And then so after fires, he would go for different types of mushrooms. So there's a lot of money to be made in picking mushrooms. A lot of people try, don't do well, but he can move through the bush like no one else.
A forest forager.
Forest forager. Yeah. That'd be his podcast.
Yeah.
But honestly, I don't know anybody who has more miles on their legs than him. He could walk through the forest faster than anybody, because it's not easy. You're going over, fall roots. And he would be probably one of the top producers of mushroom picking.
Pretty cool
as well. So
right.
He needs a second. He got a new hip, needs a second hip soon, but more miles on his legs than anybody I know.
Well,
that's impressive.
Big shout out to Andrew.
Yeah.
For that.
So did I answer your question yet? I guess what I learned from him: hard work. There was times where, we would butt head a little bit when he said, can you do this? And I would ask the question, and there was, because I said so, that bothered me for a while. But as a parent of 5 kids, and sometimes you just need to tell your kids, like, because I said so, because that's what you think is the right decision for the kid. So we always knew my dad loved us deeply. I really do believe that. And just the work hard and try to show integrity and generosity. I think there's a lot of behind the scenes generosity that I kind of seen later in the year. So.
And I've had the pleasure of meeting him several times and playing golf with him, and he is a super dude.
Yeah,
for sure.
He's a cool guy.
It's been a pleasure. Okay, so that's a bit of home life and a bit about your dad.
Probably the first time someone's really asked me about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, look at us getting right into
Yeah.
it. We got to hug it out later, maybe. So then you go to university, right? You go to elementary school, high school in Houston,
Yep.
not Smithers
Yep.
specifically.
Yep.
And then you went to university, right? Right at a...
Yeah. So
Cool.
I
Like,
was
what's the story?
17 when I went to Edmonton to King's University. I wanted to be an optometrist because I
What's
did
that?
eye doctor. The reason I wanted to do that is because I had bad
Not
eyes.
asking for me. I was asking for, you know.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. When I was in grade 3, I had glasses, and that optometrist in Smithers, because we didn't have one in Houston at the time. Oh no, we did. Anyway, I went back and forth. He would go to Africa every year and fit people with recycled glasses, and I thought that was the coolest thing.
That's pretty cool.
So from the time I was like in grade 4, I wanted to be an optometrist, was in the back of my mind. So I was going to go to King's University College in Edmonton, eventually transfer to U of A. get my
Still wanting to be an
bachelor's,
eye doctor?
Still want to be an eye doctor.
So similar to real estate? As
Yeah.
in not at all.
In my 3rd year, when I went to U of A, I was sitting in a room in an ethics class with, I think, 30 other people, and realizing, an ethics class and a cellular neuroscience class. So I was able to do the ethics course, no problem. But the cellular neuroscience, almost all those people want to do optometry. There's 2 schools in Canada. One was French speaking, and then you had the States. And I just wasn't smart enough. Sad to say. Out of those 30 people, most of them wanted to go. I think my first test in cellular neuroscience, hard one to say, I think I got like 47%. I got better in the second one, but I was like, this just isn't for me.
Okay.
So then
That's in your 3rd year in university.
Yeah.
Okay, so now you burned 2.5 years.
Yeah, which I just say I got
Where
a
do we
lot
go?
of good experience.
Okay.
Made some
About
friends.
eyeballs.
No, nothing was about that. It was all the standard education the first 2 years, right?
Okay.
Really realized I didn't want to live in Alberta. I would rather live in BC. So then I'm like, what
Too
am I going to do?
flat? Too cold?
Both.
Too windy?
Wind wasn't that bad. Minus 40. Houston got minus 40, but the cold 2-week span where if you don't know how to ride the bus, you're walking to get groceries and then you barely make it coming home.
Yeah, I heard a comedian go on about this lately. He said something like, Alberta is a crazy place in the world. It's like one of the only places where you could just like go outside, miss the bus, and die. Just
story.
That's it. Yeah,
Snot freezes in like half a second.
yeah. But I got a lot of family in Alberta, especially on my wife's side.
Yeah.
So shout out to Alberta. It's still good.
Yeah. So then it was, I chose to go to BCIT. So some of my courses transferred over, but went to BCIT for financial management with a financial planning option.
Why did
Got
you do
a
that?
2-year diploma.
Why did you say financial management?
I always liked numbers, and business just kind of interested me. Like I always kind of know what's going on in the news, and arithmetic was like numbers was I knew numbers. So I was like, yeah, try something different. I guess I just narrowed it.
You're like,
narrowed it
maybe I'm
down.
smart enough for numbers.
Yeah. So BCIT was good, other than the tax portion. Everything else went well. So
How many years was that?
2 years.
So you're back in BC, where you want to be, 2
Yeah.
years in BCIT. Okay.
Yeah.
Then what?
Then I should almost back up to like what my first jobs were and quickly say that because I had
You
some
worked while you
cool
were in school.
jobs. Yeah. So one thing I'll say, like I kind of wish I would have worked a little bit less and traveled a little more because I never got around to that.
Mhm.
But it was always work to make money for university, and then work to make money because you're getting married, and then work to make money because you want to get a house and then kids. So I should have had a little more fun when I was younger, but the work was fun. So one summer I wrecked beaver dams pretty much all summer. So a lot, I know, crazy.
That's a random job.
Yeah. Sorry if some people have a problem with that, but there's all these logging roads and there's culverts that go under the logging roads. And if a beaver dams up a culvert, it floods over the road, wipes out the road, logging trucks can't go down.
Yeah.
So people would see this happening.
Beavers are mostly a nuisance.
Yeah.
Like just known, even today.
Yeah.
There's one in a bay that I'm not going to speak about. It's really annoying. Some locals love it though.
Around here.
Yeah. Can you terminate that one for me?
So we were
How
never
are
able
you?
to kill them.
What'd you do to them?
We couldn't shoot them or
Did you
kill
move
them.
them?
We would just wreck the dam.
Can I take you somewhere?
Yeah.
To be
Oh, yeah.
unsaid this summer?
You need to come.
No, it's not
Oh,
a dam.
yeah.
It's its house. We need to
Oh, it's a lodge.
relocate it.
It's not damming anything up. It's not near as much fun.
But I just want to know if you have the skills.
Oh, I got skills.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't lost this. Like riding a bike.
All right.
Coolest thing though,
We're going to talk about that.
You had a dam blocking a culvert, and let's say this culvert is 3 or 4 feet round, and there's just a trickle of water. Well, if you start clearing it out, and you hear like the glug glug glug, and you all of a sudden everything goes rushing through, you get it shooting out the other side. That was the funnest part. Sometimes it would take us like 8 hours to get done. It's like they could just call a backhoe in, pull this out, but our labor was cheaper than getting a machine out there. So
cheap labor.
Cheap labor.
You getting like $12 an hour back in the day? Double digits.
Before
maybe.
that, I stacked lumber. Stacking lumber at $14 an hour. That was the first job.
It's big money.
Yeah.
So that's a long time ago because you're pretty old.
Yeah. And before the stacking lumber, we actually cleaned at the mill. And once we were done cleaning, we could do piecework. So it's like, how much can you get done? We were making $27 an hour. And then I think someone
That's
complained to the boss
money
that
at
we
that
were
age.
making too much.
Yeah.
So then they just made it harder for us, which I thought was complete crap.
Yeah.
But-
well, you're used to $27 an hour. Like,
Yeah.
how old are you? Like 15, 16?
15, 16?
Huge.
Probably 15. Eric Seinen was my work buddy there.
You were loaded.
We were work. Yeah, it was awesome. So yeah, $14 an hour, $27 an hour. Then clearing beaver dams and mowing lawns and doing other stuff for the mill. That was, I think, $20 an hour. That was all summer stuff.
But that was all before BCIT.
Yeah, and then BCIT. So my first year at BCIT, I got a job in Vancouver, downtown Vancouver, totally out of my element, working at a insurance company. They would give me stuff to do. I would do it. Then I'd go ask them for more stuff to do. And they'd be like, we don't have anything more.
Then you went home? Or you just
No,
considered-
so then I would ask around until someone finally gave me something to do. It was kind of weird because everybody knew I was only there for 2 months. But I was like, I'm in insurance. I got to figure out more about insurance. So I remember Googling, like, learning about insurance. And then the boss comes. He's like, what are you doing? I'm like, well, I did all this. I went around and asked, like, is there more I could do? And now I'm just trying to, understand insurance more. So I'm looking up insurance. I think I probably said the wrong thing. I was probably like saying I was Googling. Anyway, so then he had an upset look on his face. But I'm like, at that age, I didn't want to lose my job.
Did he reprimand you? Or you
totally. And then I had to like refile things in his office that made no sense. I probably should have stayed there because everyone there, most people there were not very good at what they did. They just did it, and we were there for years. I'm like, I could have worked my way up, but you just got a sense of what kind of office culture was, and it wasn't very efficient. So that was my first summer job, but it was back and forth on the SkyTrain the whole summer. SkyTrain's a whole nother
a whole nother thing. And then year 2 at BCIT, you also worked?
So I didn't work while I was there, but year 2 in so we were out of there in, I can't remember if it was April. I think it was April we were done. So in February, I started applying for jobs. Actually only applied for one job. So there's a company called Odlum that came to our school. Financial management, it's stocks and bonds, it's investing, it's all that, financial planning. I got an interview. There was 20 other people that interviewed. I had to go to downtown Vancouver again for this. And this is where like the small town young guy in me came out. I dressed as good as I could, but I was still wearing like white socks with black shoes. That was just, it's not what people did then.
$27 an hour at the age of 15, and you can't snazz it up for an interview.
I know. Well, I spent it all in education.
Oh,
right?
Okay. All right.
It's expensive.
Fair enough. Yeah.
And
But you got the job anyways.
Yeah, I remember going up the escalator like with a bottle of Gatorade and like my white socks and being like, I feel like I don't fit in here. And then the person doing the interview comes down the elevator while I'm going up the elevator. I'm like, now she see me. Anyway, I got it in there. 3 people got the job. They interviewed 20. I got the job.
Sweet.
I feel like what I learned there, whether this is true or not, you got to do your homework beforehand of what the company's about and then flip the table on the interviewer and ask them a bunch of questions. I feel like that's what got me the job. So,
well, nowadays I don't know what Gen is it, Gen Z or whatever. They interview you, Gen Alpha. I don't know.
They interview us. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, when you try to hire them, they want to know what their benefits are and how much they're going to make and when they have to work, and maybe they'll choose you.
Oh, I must have been 20 years before my time then.
Yeah, look at you.
Yeah.
Asking the right questions. All right. So now you're at Alden Brown.
Yep.
Doing financial management.
2000.
What do you do there? You're buying and
2006,
selling.
2007. So there you start as an assistant. You can't actually do the trades. You're just helping out. So you're answering phone calls. You're sending out emails. A lot of admin work. registered representative, I think was what I had I worked up to get my registered representative. Then you can actually do the trades. So the stock market's open from 6:30 to 1:30 Pacific time. So once I got to that, every week it would switch, and sometimes I'd be the first guy in the office. So I get this new designation, and the very first deal that I had to put through was a purchase of 100 shares of potash. No, 1,000 shares of potash, which was at $700 a share. So the very first trade that I put in through the computer is for $700,000 with the highest net worth client that Odlum Brown had at the time.
He just happened to call in with just you there.
And I'm the only one in the office. So normally I'd be like, hey, someone just like, am I doing this right?
Yeah.
And as we're talking, he's like, is it done yet? And I was like, click. I'm like,
So
yes.
he thought it was going to the moon that day. He was like,
No.
get this now.
No, he was just like, why are you taking so long? But I'm like shaking, being like, am I buy?
Is that enough
Is it
zeros?
sell? So I got the right.
Did I buy 1,000 too many?
Trial by fire on the first one, but it all worked out.
Do you remember what potash did that day?
Oh, it still did. It wasn't that day. This guy was more of a long term.
Okay.
So it was a good buy at the time.
Good buy? Yeah.
Definitely, yeah.
Everything back then was probably good buy compared to now.
POT was the ticker.
Pot.
Yeah. But it was potash. So they use it
Potash.
for agriculture and growing, I think. Fertilizer. So,
Sweet.
so yeah, I was there for a few years, and then it was great. Learned a lot, had great mentors. Actually loved the job. Really liked the stock market. And it was actually through a really hard time in the stock market, like the 2008, I think.
Did you see people lose all their money, their wealth? People
Not
get
all
fired off the floor?
Nope, but I
Was it
remember
just like the movies?
I remember advisors coming out and being like, I just talked to so and so, older lady, and she's seeing her wealth go down, and that's all her wealth, and she's crying to me on the phone. And this is right as I'm like thinking, okay, I'm gonna go from assistant to actual advisor and grow my business.
And you're like, she's so sad, I don't want to be her advisor.
Yeah, I was like, okay, the market slowly goes up over time. There's buy and a sell on every transaction. So there's a winner and loser on every transaction. And at the end of the day, sometimes we as advisors can't know where the market's going. So I didn't want to be in those hard times where people are calling you being like, what's going on? Right? So I was like, do I want to look after people's money? No. In real estate, I guess I do that a little bit.
Naturally, you picked another industry that has no ups and downs. It's just level, right? Yeah.
But I learned one big thing there. There would be people coming in. Let's say you have two people that are 80 years old. One is a husband or wife, and they got 200 grand in savings or to their name, but they got a ton of kids and grandkids. They would always come in super happy. Then you might have another person that comes in, 80 years old, husband or wife. They got 2 million to their name, but no kids or grandkids or very little family, and they weren't happy. So I was like, which one of these do I want to be? And I want to be the people with family first.
So then you're like,
that was just a random life lesson you didn't think you were going to learn in that job. That totally did.
right.
So,
Did you meet Renee during that time, or were you already together? Were you already married?
I met her when I was at BCIT. So that would have been
Right before Odlum Brown.
Yeah, it would have been starting my second year at BCIT, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So you're already married at Odlum Brown.
At Odlum Brown. No, I got married. No, I would have been at Odlum Brown for a year and then got married. Yeah.
Okay. And then did you go from Odlum Brown to real estate?
So had to choose between being an assistant or an advisor, I was like, not sure this is going to work. I started working for my brother-in-law, Tim, and my father-in-law. So yeah, at Odlum Brown, I was also married at Odlum Brown, or while I was there, I got married. So a couple of years at Odlum Brown, and then decided to switch things up. So I worked for my brother-in-law, Tim, and father-in-law at a company called BFW. Brookswood Fern Ridge Willoughby, I think is what it stood for. Just places where they develop.
I didn't know that was the name of that company.
Yeah.
Huh.
So this is
Learning today.
Yeah, there you go. So I worked there, and because I had my diploma at BCIT, I could quite easily get my urban land economics diploma from Sauder School of Business. So I worked 4 days a week there, and on Friday would do schooling for them. Learned a lot on the job, learned a lot doing the urban land.
Yeah, because this is all land development. Like this is, if you guys see, like when I first got to know Darren, just realizing that the knowledge you have, like when you think about real estate, you think, oh, I'm just going to buy and sell houses. You don't think about like, hey, this chunk of land and I'm going to get variances and rezone and bring in services and do all this stuff and then build townhouses or build. And you were doing that. What, like you were analyzing properties for development.
Yeah. And to be honest, at the beginning, I felt like I really had to like learn that to bring more value. Cause I'd be dealing with demos, trying to come up with ideas for developments. And I was probably just a few years young to really understand that whole process. Mm-hmm. So if I could go back and tell myself there, it'd be like, like ask more questions almost and just go do, right? Like maybe a little bit too much thinking in that, but such good, learning and experience for real estate. And I didn't even think about doing real estate at the time. So then,
like you had no intention at the time when you joined that.
I don't think so. The intention that I had early on was
it's crazy because that's some of the best education you could ever do for real estate. Ever.
Like you said, zoning, land use, variances, what you can build on a property, some with servicing. There's so much that you need in that. The trial and error of it all too, right?
And that's the thing that like realtors don't know that when they start. There's nothing in real estate school that prepares you for any of that. And that's always something that I feel like has, it sets you apart from so many because you fully understand land development and what you can do and highest and best use. And it's, the big numbers, the big properties don't scare you. It's like, well, let's just do a pro forma on it. Yeah. This is what it's going to cost to do that. This is what the end result is. So this is what it's worth.
And I feel like you just assume that some people know the zoning and things like that. Like I just kind of assume that because I feel like as a realtor, you should know that. But yeah, it's definitely a strong suit that I appreciate that I have that knowledge. So while I was there, I actually took the mortgage course because I thought I could get into mortgages or even like mortgage investment corporation work, that sort of thing. And then I was like, nah, don't really like that because I don't get to really be in front of people. And I feel like that was just a very transactional job. Shout out to some of the mortgage brokers we know, like Sean Chapman, Alex McFadden, like they're good at their job. So it is a job we appreciate, but not one I would want to do.
And you still deal with people, but it is different. It's definitely different than real estate.
So I did the whole course, did the exam, passed that, thought about getting into it, chose not to. Then I realized with my urban land economics diploma, I didn't actually even need to take the course. I could have just
challenged it.
I don't even know if it would have had to been a challenge. I think I could have just, you just sign up for that, get it. Like the license. I don't even think I had to challenge.
That's all after you were done it all.
Yeah. That urban land.
A little bit backwards there, Darren.
Totally. Yeah. So then Dale Kirkland, who is
you about how smart you were.
Thank you.
Here we go.
Dale Kirkland, who is a realtor that worked for my brother-in-law and my father-in-law, got to know him, and then I'm like, maybe I could do real estate.
Because he was a realtor working for them.
Yeah. So he was a realtor. Since maybe the late 80s, early 90s. So like he was seasoned because this would have been 08, 09.
He's a realtor for 20 years already.
Yeah. And he's good at it. Like
working with developers.
Yeah.
He was the man.
He was just good at putting deals together. Nobody sold more lots than Dale Kirkland, like building lots.
Yeah.
That's
and this is like in the day, like I know enough about Dale. This is the day where you're walking around with a business card and a pen and a binder with opportunities in your car phones, maybe, or like you're trying. Like
he might have had one before. No, you would have had cell phones now. Because I remember
when he started.
When he started, he might have had a car phone for a while.
Like
yeah, early 90s.
But he would hustle, and this is before MLS. This before.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Dale was really good at putting buyer and seller together, and you could double end deals at the time.
Yeah.
I still don't like that term, double end, but he could work with a buyer and seller
negative connotation.
Yeah.
He did it the right way.
Yeah.
He knew people. He knew how to put deals together. Shout out to Dale.
Yeah. So, legend. Dale is retired now, finally. But he sold more real estate than anybody for a while. More lots for sure. So
we'll tap into a little bit more about Dale.
Yeah, learned a lot from Dale.
Yeah.
So
you saw Dale.
Yeah.
You thought real estate.
Yeah.
Then what happened?
Then I realized I didn't need to actually take the mortgage course. I was like, oh, why did I take it? But I'm like, oh, maybe this is the same for real estate. So I didn't take the real estate course, but got a real estate license.
Fraud.
Quit. Oh, we'll get to that. Not fraud, but trial by fire.
Yeah.
Left BFW.
I didn't learn anything in the real estate course either. So.
And then started at Home Life. So then that was my first year.
Okay.
And that was.
And then you left development altogether and started full-time real estate, Home Life?
I think so. I think that would have been like the summer of, it was 2010 or 11.
Did you have your brother-in-law and father-in-law's blessing? Or were they like, what's this guy doing?
I was going to say I didn't need their blessing.
Yeah.
I needed my father-in-law's blessing once.
Yeah, that's right. And then
it was my decision.
Well, I'm just saying, you worked with them for them. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. Could be a awkward leave.
I always I don't think it was awkward at all. Yeah. And I always wanted to do something on my own. Like, I really appreciated all the opportunities that I got through my in-laws and from Tim and, just being, seeing what they do and things like that. But
yeah, like amazing people and mentors. Yeah. And like from the little I've gotten to know them, like these are smart people and for sure good to be around for a time. Eh?
Yeah. And I'm different than them, right? Like I couldn't do the land development, the building that they do. But definitely learned a lot from them. So it's like, where do I fit in with my skill set? Right.
So you're like, I'm going all in 2 feet, jumped in.
It was risky, as you know, right? Like later on in the story, we'll hear your side. But yeah, so the real estate back then was, okay, you're either door knocking to start. You have a big community of people. I was pretty shy in putting my name out there, maybe too shy. Like I didn't want to just phone everybody in the church or phone all my friends and be like, hey, I'm a realtor now. I probably should have done that, but I was bad at shamelessly plugging myself to start.
That's how real estate works. You make a Facebook post that says, hey, I'm a realtor now, and
I know.
And you sell houses. It's really easy.
It's probably a big myth.
It's easy.
But that is what you should do. One of the things you should do, and I did it. No, but you still got, so like I had it 4 years in, where someone's like, I didn't know you're a realtor. I'm like, oof. That person doesn't know I'm a realtor. I'm doing something wrong.
That's probably a bad thing.
Right?
Yeah.
So anyway, what we did back then was door knock. And I did door knock, but I did not enjoy it. Found out how many people have dogs, because it's like every door you knock on, I would say 60 to 70% you're hearing barking on the other side. I was like, I didn't know this many people had dogs. Never got chased though. Mall kiosks. So there'd be a Home Life kiosk set up at Guildford Mall.
Home Life Bedford-Titus kiosk. Yeah. I spent some time in there. Yeah.
And Scottsdale Mall. So I lived in Murrayville and was driving out to Scottsdale, like 72nd and 120th.
Yeah.
First 2 deals, I think, came out of there.
Out of a mall kiosk.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe I was doing something wrong, but that mall kiosk did not work for me.
No.
The middle of Surrey. It was Guildford, right?
Well, Guildford
Awful.
and Scottsdale.
Abbotsford guy driving the middle of Surrey to
and
stand in a mall.
So, first 2 deals. I remember those stories. The first one was a couple late 70s, maybe 80s. They walk up to me and they're like, hey.
Is this your first deal?
I think this is my first deal.
Yeah.
It's just a good story.
It's a good real estate story.
Yeah. So, and remember, I'll get to that part later.
I do remember one thing about this story.
Older couple, they tried to sell their little rancher on a 8 or 10,000 square foot lot, North Surrey. They had it listed for $419. Couldn't sell it. It expired. They were walking by me in the mall. Said hi. You think
that was your opening move?
Hi. I don't remember what the opening move was. Start chatting with them, and they're like, "Can you sell our house for us?" I'm like, "Yeah.
Done this a million times."
Totally, being more confident than I probably was. Go to their house, chat with them. We're having a great time. Find out he's a Blue Jays fan. Connecting with them. I'm like, "Okay, I think we should list this for $399 because you couldn't sell it for $419. The market's kind of the same as what it was. Let's go $399, get just under $400. Then we should find a buyer." Okay, let's do that.
They liked it.
Can
we talk about that? I find it so fascinating in real estate when you're like brand new to real estate. You've never done a transaction before. And then you're sitting in front of these people in their 70s and you're like, I'm Darren. I got you. Your biggest asset. Like, been here, done that. You're in good hands. Like, it's like your first few are kind of crazy.
Yeah. She thought I was cute. I think that's what actually got me in the door. Honestly,
Why'd you think that?
Because she told me later.
So funny. All right, so this lady in her 70s thinks you're cute, but you still had to win over the
I also got a
husband.
kiss on the cheek from her when the deal was done, and I think a butt tap on the way out. But like her husband was totally good with it, and I was just like,
We should probably talk more about that. Like, but okay, we move on. But you still won over the husband.
That's where it
in the meeting, right?
oh yeah,
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah.
He was all on board. Yeah. So anyway, we listed for $399.
Great price.
Good price, I thought.
Good. Yeah.
I'm like, I already did really good getting the price down here.
What year is this, to be exact? Just so people know.
2010 or 11. I can't
Okay.
remember when I started.
2010, 2011? I think you're right in there. Okay.
Yeah. So North Surrey, it would have been like a teardown rancher to most potential buyers, but we listed. I'm hoping we get some action. My phone is ringing off the hook. I'm going to say we had it listed for 2 or 3 days, and then it's like, I'm going to write you an offer. Actually, no, we did an open house. That's what it was. Saturday, open house. And then the first guy through there, he's like, we're going to write an offer. And through the open house, we just got like one after another. And I'm like, people are going to steal stuff here. I'm like, I didn't know what I was doing. So I should have made him wait by the door, lock the door, take this group through. What ended up happening is I wrote 7 offers that day.
Yourself.
Myself for 7 different buyers that came through the door.
Who were also then represented by you.
I think
so in one day.
Well, I think I treated them as customers.
Old school real estate. In one day, you represented.
I want to say I treated them as customers. I don't know. This might come back to bite me. Anyway, I'm writing 7 contracts. It's 28 degrees out. I didn't need it to be 28 degrees out. I was sweating already. I don't know what I was doing because I didn't take the course. So I didn't know what clauses to write. So, I'm like, what do you want to make this subject to? And, I'm like, okay, where did I know? And I'd seen some contracts before, but I am physically writing out a full contract. These people, I was smart. I brought some contracts just in case.
That's pretty smart.
But they had a printer, so I had to print off more.
Okay.
But it was 7 offers that I wrote. Price, name, all the stuff. And I'm like, guaranteed my clauses were not legit. So I'm phoning Dale. Dale's in Phoenix, I think. I'm getting a little bit of help from Dale, but it's on and off because he's on the golf course.
Yeah.
And I'm this is going to be my only deal in real estate, and then I'm going to real estate jail. So
I've been scared of that place before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one good thing that I did, and it was legit too, there was a realtor that wrote an offer, and I knew that his clients really wanted it. So I played up all these offers as best as I could, with as ethically as I could. But I was totally okay with this guy having the best offer, even though it meant a little bit less commission for me because I knew I wasn't going to real estate at jail.
That's right, because you can have both sides with that offer because you're going to pay the other agent, right?
So we listed for
that guy got it?
Yeah, we listed for $399.
Yeah.
I wrote 7 offers, probably from $410 to $425.
Yeah.
This guy bought it for $431. And then I stopped.
So your first deal.
Oh, and it was subject
take over
free.
listing that doesn't sell at $419. List it for $399. Go ahead and sell for more.
Yeah, and it was sold that day.
Nice.
Like they came with the deposit and all that.
Got a kiss on the cheek to boot.
Yeah, and about
Let's go.
So that was done. So that was my first one. And then the next one, it's not near as good of a story, but it was a like 25 to 30-year-old Asian girl that walked by, and she's like, I'm looking for a realtor who's white. I'm like, that's me. Because I'm looking for a realtor
small
who's
kiosk
white.
again,
and
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Beautiful.
it's me.
Yeah.
And
I fit that bill.
Yeah. So listed her place and took a while, but got that one sold. It wasn't quite the same story, but those are my
Small
first
kiosk. So
kiosks.
if they opened up one again, maybe they still have them. Would you go? Do you think it's a good idea still?
So
Mall kiosk.
I want to say now that like we have our name out there, a weird thing about Leffers and Rook that I never kind of thought would happen when people call you, they call you like they already know you a little bit. That's been weird to me these last few years. But I'm like, so if we were to do that in Abbotsford, people would recognize the logo, and not everybody, but more people would recognize the name. So then I think
Maybe
it might
John
actually
Turner
make sense. We might be on something.
Maybe we should go
Revisit
space. Yeah.
Abbotsford here.
Seven Oaks, right?
Yeah.
I heard it was shutting down. That could be wrong.
Well, we might keep it going.
Yeah, well, maybe. All it needs is a mall kiosk. Real estate.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's we're getting closer to the point in your life where you met me.
Yeah.
It's the highlight of your life.
Yeah.
One of them.
Yeah.
But we got a couple more years in real estate. So you and Dale were partners, right? Together.
Yeah. So we weren't partners to start, I don't think. I think my first couple years I was on my own under kind of his tutelage. Like he did help out a lot, right? Like any questions I had, he had answers for, Dale, here's the situation. What would you do? Oh, I would do this. And most of the time, like, bang on. Like, so it was really helpful in that. So I want to say, like, my first couple years were lean. I think I did 7, and then I did 5 or 6, and then I jumped to 10. And I think in that third year, I partnered with him. I could be wrong on that. He might correct me. He's got a better memory on that. But then slowly building up the deals. So,
yeah, because when I came around, you were around 20-something.
Yeah, I don't remember.
That was somewhere.
Because I do remember in a couple of those, like, I felt after year 3, I got over the hump. But back then, your expenses were like being a realtor for me compared to what we do now was totally different, right? Like, you kept your expenses really low, and yeah,
completely different business model. Being like an individual agent who works from home, who has no staff, who has no office space, who doesn't spend money on marketing. Like, it's a different world from
your marketing is just your listing.
Yeah.
So the photo and the video of that for it, that's what you're spending, and then it's gas, your vehicle, your computer. It still adds up, but it's just
but it's still way different. It's actually interesting to look back now at what we were and the services that we offered versus now. Like, building a business and building a brand helps. Obviously, we've gotten way better at what we do.
Yeah.
And now we also have a team to help us do that.
Yeah.
And your clients are getting way more support in a lot of ways too.
Yeah. And
so
I had to get more people to know me, right? Yeah. Like, I didn't grow up here. So that community is just a little bit smaller.
Yeah.
And in our church community, there was already realtors. So if they're choosing, who are they choosing, right? So, a lot of the deals in this first one were not from our community. It was ones that I had to go out and get, mall kiosk ones, right? But listings breed listings, and those clients, if you do a good job for them, they'll tell people. So, so then that brings us to 2014. When was the condos before your house?
Well, so that was, so that would have been
13,
like 2015 when we started the condos when I met you.
I sold you a house in 2014.
14, me and my wife bought my first house.
Yeah, that was before the condos.
With you as my agent.
Yeah.
So before condos. Yeah.
Okay. So I don't.
So we
remember.
met.
I think we might have talked about it after a hockey game against each other.
House?
Yeah. Your house. Like, when did we first chat that you were looking for a house?
The way I remember it is I called you because we went to the same church at the time, and I didn't want to, for whatever reason, I didn't want to work with the other couple agents that were there. And I was like, I think I knew you from hockey. I like knew you and had seen you around a little bit. Yeah. We didn't really know each other. But I was like, I'm going to call Darren.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it was like after hockey where I talked to you about it the first time, but I remember like making that decision.
I remember we were center rivals at hockey. So we knew each other. But I feel like we discussed at hockey one time. I'm probably remembering that wrong.
We played so much hockey against each other.
Yeah.
Teams were rivals.
We should jump on each other's team sometime soon.
That would be good.
Team up. Score some goals. Anyway, off track.
Still got it. Middle age, still got it. No, I pulled a hamstring on Monday playing hockey. Getting old, man. I'm still in recovery. But yeah, still love
Brent's
it.
first division. I'm third division. My points per game is a little better, but that's
Probably
third division.
Better.
So
probably a lot better. Just your average plug, man. Out there having a good time.
I try way too hard, but that's okay.
Didn't
anyway,
hamstring.
No.
How
many homes did I show you?
Lot. I was not a good client. Like, I was a good client. I was a good client, and you knew that I was gonna buy, but I was like, I remember being like, we need to get in a house because I was getting kicked out of a rental at the time. So I only had 2 months to find a place, but I never thought about real estate, knew about real estate, like nothing. I needed to learn everything, and I wanted to see it all in the price range. to narrow it down. And we had started being like, oh, we're going to buy in West Abbotsford. Then we went all through West Abbotsford. It was like, no, I ain't going to do that. We ended up kind of more in the middle of Abbotsford and then actually further out east. But
I want to say we even talked about like not a home, but it was like, no, let's get you a home.
Yeah.
Like not a townhouse, right?
Yeah.
So I don't remember all the homes I showed you, but I do remember the one you bought. And this real estate was different. Real estate had already changed a little bit, but Brent and Cheryl are in my car. We pull up to the house. I go in with an offer. I give them the offer. I jump back in the car. I tell them how it went. I wait. I get a phone call. I go in and I get the counter offer. I go out to Brent and Cheryl in the car.
Yeah, and you were negotiating with the
forth.
owners and the realtor because it was actually his like first deal too, and it was his sister's house. You remember that?
His brother's house, yeah. Brother.
Really?
Yeah.
All
But
right, so anyways,
it was wife
interesting.
making the decision. So
Yeah. So that was
I
kind
could
of
tell
a cool
he was
story.
green, and I remember being green in real estate.
And then we actually went in and shook their hands.
Yeah.
After. It was
So
actually
that
kind of
doesn't
a cool,
that doesn't happen.
It's kind of a
these
cool
days.
story. Yeah.
Yeah.
We were all happy. I think we ended where they wanted to be and where we could, which is they listed at 412, and we got it at 4, which was we were pre-approved for 4.
Yeah.
And they probably listed at 412 wanting 4 at least, which they sold to us in a couple days.
And the market shot up right
The
after.
market shot up right after. I got a door knock 6 months later, and someone's like, I want to buy your house for $475,000.
Yeah.
And at the time, I'm like, I can't, not thinking of math anymore, but
Yeah.
I was probably 24, 23, something like that when I bought a house. And like 75 grand was an insane amount of money.
Yeah.
Right? Not that it's not today, but like when you're 24 and all of a sudden 6 months later someone knocks on your door and be like, hey, I'll give you $75,000 more than you paid. That was like an eye opener. I'm like, oh, so thankful I bought a house at the time.
And that house was awesome. Dead end road, backed onto a park, 10,000 square foot lot.
Yeah, it was.
Had a suite already. Had
house.
really good creaks in the like old hardwood floor for
Pine
character.
Flooring. Yeah, you
was a good
couldn't
house.
move anywhere without people hearing you in that house. It was loud, really loud. So
Yeah. So yeah. And then
That's
next year, I was helping your dad buy some rental condos.
yeah, so we'll
that you
get
were
to
a part
that.
of.
So that's
Get to
tied
that?
in my
Yeah.
story.
Okay. But in that part, okay, so where do you want to go with? Do you want to talk
Let's
about
get
where
me
you're
caught up to you, and then
Okay.
we merge them together.
Okay. So what I know of Brent is that he was born in
You said you know it.
Winnipeg, Carmen.
I know.
He was born out here and then moved out there.
No. My parents are from Carmen. My mom was pregnant with me when they were on a plane coming out here. But I was born in beautiful Wally.
Oh, so,
Middle
sorry.
of Surrey.
Conceived out there.
Conceived out there, yeah.
Small thing.
Yeah, all the
wrong.
fun was had in Manitoba, and then yeah. So we came out, and parents settled in Surrey. I don't know exactly why they came out, but they decided to move out here. And
I just remember a picture of you in your living room when you were how old by the coffee table?
I'm like 2 or 3 years old. I'm a toddler, and
Your dad's playing below with you, like
different
a
time.
good dad.
yeah, ashtray behind my head. I'm sitting there as a toddler, having a dart, playing with the sun, like just awesome. Those are the days, eh?
Yeah.
But no, so yeah, born in Wally. We lived in Surrey till I was like 5 before we moved to Chilliwack, and I don't obviously remember much about the first 5 years, but pretty humble beginnings. My dad was like a self-starter, but he didn't start his business till 96, and I was born in 89. So first 7 years of my life, like we were not very well off. My dad left everything he had, came out here, pretty young guy when he did that, and yeah, so there's like pictures of me in a fourplex in Surrey, with just like bunch of adults sitting around a picnic table in the backyard, like playing cards, having a drink, and just like kids like half naked running around. Like that was kind of where it started. But like good memories, and we were close as a family. And then we moved to Chilliwack after that. So I remember the only thing I remember about that move was walking into kindergarten like halfway through the year when we moved, and it just being like so weird, right?
Yeah.
Starting new school and everyone staring, not knowing anybody. But it was good. In Chilliwack, we bounced around rentals in Chilliwack. Like we were, like I said, I remember that a lot. Like we weren't super poor, but you could tell that we just, were struggling a bit because it was like, in some of the rentals we had, man, one was like on this gross like creek that you could more call a ditch, and it was just a rough house kind of falling apart. And then, you're there for a year and a half, and then we went to another house on William Street in Chilliwack. If you guys, anyone you out there that live in Chilliwack or know, like William Street, you still go down there and it's like, it's a pretty rough street. And I think that little white ranch is still there. But and then we had ant problems there and kinds of stuff. But like, yeah, as a kid, you don't care. I had great neighbors.
Yeah.
Just
You don't even
outside
question
biking. No, you're outside biking, playing with the neighbors. Like, it was great. Like, I loved the house. And then we bounced to another one that we rented on Gibson Road, the far east side of Chilliwack, and we rented off a farmer there. He had 2 houses on his property. And that house, all I remember is like, it was awesome playing, like kick the can outside and like so much room to roam because you had fields all around and barns. And yeah, I don't think we were allowed in the barns, got yelled at a few times, but we just play. So that was kind of
Does kick the can still exist? I don't think my kids.
Oh, yeah.
I got to teach to my kids.
my kids play it.
Yeah?
They love it. It's
Still
still
capture the flag, not too much kick the can. I should get him back into it. That and Beckon. Beckon was a good game
yeah,
too.
Ghost in the Graveyard.
Oh, they like that.
Yeah,
They like
it's another
that.
good one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Okay. You brought up my dad. So talk about your dad and your mom too, if you want, about what you learned from them. And maybe even it was like something that you looked back on where you're like, okay, that made sense, and they ingrained that in me.
yeah, so me and my dad had I don't know, it's been an interesting like ride with me and my dad because it's been, I think, different than most stories is when I hear other people's stories and talk to them. But from like the age of like 0 to 12, me and my dad, well, we weren't that close. So we weren't distant, but my dad was like working a lot, right? So when I was 7, he started the business, and that was his everything. Like one thing I really learned about from him was like drive and like what it takes to start a business. Like when I started real estate, he's like, if you don't have conversations with your wife about like sacrifice and what it takes to make it, he's like, you're already off. Like you need to give it everything you have to find success. And because he had to. And so when he started a flat roofing company called Raven Roofing. And he before that he had worked for Holman Roofing, and he'd done that for a few years, and then eventually started his own company. And then from then on, he had to hustle because he had nothing. Like I said, we didn't have a lot of money, so there's no way he had a ton of capital. Maybe he had investors. I don't know the full story, but he had to go for it. So I didn't see him a lot from like 7 to the early teens. And I think once he had the business established, like 5 to 7 years in, that would put me at 12 to 14 years old. Is when we started kind of building our relationship, right?
Yeah.
Which was like, and it was good. Like he was really supportive. Like came to the volleyball games, came to the hockey games, really supportive of sport. And then he was just steady. Like one thing I'll give my dad total credit for is like he could have the worst day, and at some points he had well over 100 employees. But he'd have the worst day. He could come home and like you wouldn't know.
Yeah.
You just like he'd just kind of like, hey, what's for dinner, and carry on like a normal family would, I guess. No, he was very good at that. Like it was very rare where there was ever any of that, which I didn't actually reflect on that more till I got older. So I was always really appreciative of his drive, his consistency. Like the guy is like 10 o'clock's bedtime. He would just go to bed at 10, like no matter what. And he was always up at like 5:30, 6 o'clock, always the first one in the office, like without fail. Like he would not waver from that. Like we still joke around with him, like 10:10 special bedtime, like, right? You better get right.
They still keep up with that bedtime?
I think he sold the business a couple years ago now, or a year and a half ago. So I think that might have varied a little, right? Doesn't have to be at the office at 6:30 in the morning. I still don't think you sleep. Do boomers sleep in? Is that even a thing? I don't know. Maybe some.
I never would have thought my parents would start sleeping in, but now if I go on holidays and they're in the same place, they'll sleep in.
Yeah, I think 7 would be like my dad probably be impressed with himself for being in bed at 7. That's what I think. But so I just remember him being supportive. I remember us being able to have good conversations and that. And other than that, I was out just doing kind of my own thing. And my mom was like, she was consistent too. Great mom. I had great parents. Like she was there every time we needed to chat, especially when dad was working, and supportive as well. So
yeah.
Shout out to mom.
You didn't ask me about my mom. Quick story. I don't think I would have went to King's if it wasn't for my mom. Cause like this was young Darren. I was really shy at picking up the phone or doing anything. So like applying at King's University, it's like, I don't know where to start. I thought I'd be doing it wrong. My mom did most of it. So shout out to my mom.
Thanks, moms. Yeah.
So, okay. So then you got out of high school, unless there's anything you want to, what were your jobs? Yeah. How did that?
Oh yeah. So my first couple of jobs, I'll be fast on this, was like, hauling, the haul shop was unloading trucks there, which was just a bunch of young kids in high school, like essentially hanging out and get paid for 4 or 5 hours of work to empty a semi. And
did you steal Mentos or Chocolate Hill?
I don't remember that.
Dutch candies?
I only did it a few times. And then from there, I went to Darvonda, which I think a lot of people that I knew worked at as well. So greenhouse. And again, we had lots of fun. I remember putting together like the lawn ornaments that sit in your garden. It'd be like a bucket sitting on this other wood like a well pump, and you'd have to just like put like 3 staples in it here to get it attached there, 1 here, and then like 1 on the top, and it was done. And then you go make like 1,000 of them.
Yeah.
So there's a couple guys doing that. I remember bombing around in golf carts, and yeah, it was so good there, hanging out with friends. Just not really serious jobs, but yeah, they did okay. And then when I was in my grade 10 summer is when I got, I'd say, my first like kind of real job, I guess, in a sense. Like my dad sent me on the roof that summer, which, like, looking back, like arguably maybe not the best idea. Like, I don't know. I was a pretty sheltered kid, right?
The people you were working with.
Yeah, Christian school, Christian guy, like fairly sheltered. Anyway, go on the roof, and these guys were like, they were great guys, but like the language, man. Like I remember, like I didn't know the F word was a descriptive word and a verb and a noun and a, like whatever you want it to be, all in one sentence. And this telling me what to do, and I'm sitting there like, really? This is how we talk? I'm trying to figure out what he's trying to say. And anyways, but good people, and I learned to just kind of be out there and work hard. And I liked working outside. I mean, a ginger on a roof, a little rough sometimes in the summer, I guess, but I had to build.
I wish I had like a good joke I could just throw in there.
I had to build up a bit of a tolerance there.
It sounds like a drink.
Figure that out. Yeah,
we should create that drink. Ginger on a roof.
Yeah, if I was still in roofing, maybe, right? So anyway, it was a good summer, making money. So I was making $12 an hour, grade 10, which was big money.
It's funny that you bring up like learning about swear words.
Yeah.
Like real world, when you start working with people that you don't know. Like I had that when driving these bush roads. I'm like, I learned about so many illicit drugs that this guy took that I was like, what is that?
Oh yeah. It's amazing what you learn around the right crowds. Yeah.
Like the guy would smoke cigarettes, and all of a sudden I'm like, it's not a cigarette.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
Like no one better pull us over, right? 16-year-old kid driving.
Yeah.
Go back to you.
We're so innocent, right? But no, learned a lot that summer, making money, like I said, $12 an hour. And then the next summer I went back and did that again for $13.50. I still remember, $1.50 more. But I was actually mad about because I had 2 months experience, and $13.50 was the starting wage again. So I just had to go back where everyone else was.
You quit though.
But 2 months felt like a long time at the time, but now you look at it back now, it's like, no, you still had no experience. 2 months, man.
And your dad was probably a guy that wasn't ever going to give you special treatment.
My dad wouldn't give me diddly squat favoritism, nothing. He was so against nepotism, which at the time sucked, but I worked for him for many years, and I actually, like, I'm really thankful for it now, looking back on it. So I did that for the summers, graduated, and then I decided I was going to go to Kwantlen business school. So my dad owned this big company, and I wasn't really sure exactly what I wanted to do, but I'm like, go to business, like, yeah. And that's where me and him, I'd say, really started to butt heads. I didn't take university seriously. Like I was there to just like class would start at 10 in the morning often, and then you get like 2 or 3 classes a day. It was just like, it was easy. I was staying up too late. I was just,
and you tell everybody how busy you actually are.
You tell them how busy you are, like how hard it is. I took some cool courses, but like I don't remember much of them. I remember liking marketing, but I remember hating one of the computer courses, learning like Excel and Word. I remember just the teacher was a bore. But anyway, so I was gonna just get a certificate, which was like 1 year. I think originally I was gonna get a diploma for 2 years, and then I was like, no, I'll just do the 1 year. And then after a semester, like I was in there from September to like to January, I dropped out. I couldn't even get through. But it was also like at home it wasn't good because I was like staying up late and sleeping in, and everything I've told you about my dad. My dad is like, go to bed early, get up early, right? Like, like my dad, like certain sayings like early to bed, early to rise, right? Makes you healthy, wealthy, and wise. Like, nothing good happens after midnight, all this stuff. And I was like doing all the opposite and then sleeping in. So he was pissed. Like we did not get along he was going to kick me out of the house. Like it was all backwards what he wanted. And in some aspects, like I get it. Like part of me was like super mad at him because at the time I'm like, come on, I'm in university. I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Just didn't fit his lifestyle. But now I look back and it's like, I wasn't really doing anything good anyways. Yeah. So I dropped out.
And started working for him again?
I started roofing. Yeah. Went on the roof. And, some of my favorite years, like that shaped me from then on. So I'm like 19, 20 years old on the roof. And I had a chip on my shoulder because I was the boss's kid. This is a big company. And, silver spoon, all that. My biggest fear in life was being labeled that. Like, I didn't want that. So I wanted to outwork everybody. So, and I got along with the guys. It was great. It was a whole, like...
It's tougher when you're walking around on the top of a roof with, like, a really white face full of SPF 50.
I never
Trying
did
to
that.
get- no?
Honestly, I just sunburned. I just roasted. I got a pretty good tolerance after the first week. Like I just got through it. So yeah, hopefully I don't get skin cancer later. But yeah, it was just hot.
Yeah.
But anyways, like learned really good habits. And this roofing company, just so people know out there, it's like, it's not like, shingles, slope roof. We did, the Prosperous Center. We did like the Langley Event Center. We did like Home Depots and malls and Walmarts and high rises and any commercial
Cool
building
stuff.
you see. It's like massive. Yeah. Big flat roofs, big cool buildings. So that's what we do. So when you're on a site, you're there for like a month or two, and it's like a big surface. So once you're on the roof, it's pretty flat, right? You just got to go.
Yeah. Brent's unknown
sick.
superpower. He can tell you what needs to be done on any commercial roof.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I can still probably fix that too. Yeah. I did get my ticket. I went to roofing school. I'm a red seal roofer.
We were on the sixth
cool.
floor of a condo building, and Brent's scanning over at a Home Hardware that is flooded on the roof. And he's like, I'm going to go knock on the door. Tell him what needs to be done.
Yeah. They got to unplug that drain. Yeah. Cause I worked in production, in new construction production for the first while. And I kind of learned that. And then I got put into service. And I remember it still like it was yesterday. The first guy I got partnered with, this guy was like, no partner could ever stick with him because he was crazy. He was such a hard worker, but he had the shortest fuse ever. So if you did something wrong, he would yell at you. And of course, they put me with him because I think he had gone through a few partners, and I had heard all this stuff. I'm like, oh, here we go. So I started working with them, and at first, like we really got along. Like I said, I had a chip on my shoulder. I wanted to work hard, and I learned a ton from this guy just about efficiency and working hard. But I still remember, whenever we go to a service job, you'd load a roof. Let's say you're cutting out a HVAC, or they want to put an AC unit in an existing building. So we go up on the roof here and we cut open the roof and whatever. But to get your stuff up there, you rope it all up the side of the building, right on the back of the building. So he would go on the roof, get tied off, and he always wanted to rope stuff up because he wanted efficiency. Like most foremen would make the lackey do it because that's the harder job, right? You just tie the thing on the bottom, and then the lackey would pull it up. This guy would just like rip the stuff up fast, good, and Chuck would, okay, next. And then I had to tie wood on. So like, just think about that. You have a rope in your hand and you need to tie 4 2x4s together and have them be pulled up the side of a 30-foot building. How would you tie the wood? Do you think you could do it without them slipping out?
I don't know if I know what you're asking, but just 4 2x4s.
Let's say you had 4 2x4s, 2x4x8, let's say, right? Or 2x4x10.
Yeah.
And the guy throws a rope down and you have to tie these 4 pieces of wood together so that when he pulls them up a 30-foot wall, they don't slip.
Yeah. So I would do a knot that tightens when it's under.
Right. So maybe you had that skill, right?
Okay.
I didn't know how to do this. And he had shown me once, like a long time ago. So he's on the roof, and in order to get down the roof, it was like 100 feet down and then down the thing and then over to back. So it was like a journey. And of course, it's time, efficiency, and what else. So he is screaming at me, tie that's how you do it, John. And I'm panicking trying to tie this stuff. I think I still have PTSD from that a little bit. So they just come show me again. I never forgot again. I bet you could still do it today. It's been a long time since I've done it.
I gave the right answer. Could I tie that knot? Probably not.
I don't know. It was like anyway, so learned a lot from him, worked with him for a while, and then I started running my own service division at Raven. Not division, it was just you and one guy, but we would go fix roofs, install AC units, so I'd go to like 4 or 5 roofs a day, depending on the day, sometimes one. And yeah, so let's say you move into a building that's already there and you want a whole bunch of vents, then I'd come there, cut them in, and install them. So that's what we did, and it was good work. And then when I was 22, I went in the office. There was basically an opportunity, and my dad was like, "Hey, get an estimator that quit. There's an opportunity for you to come in the office and be an estimator." And I was like, "Well, I'm 22. I didn't really feel ready. Like I hadn't been a foreman for that long. I got my red seal for being on the roof. I was pretty comfortable. I was making $26 an hour. I was pretty, feeling pretty good at 22 years old. Like, had a steady girlfriend and wanted to go on dates and have the money and do the things. And, but yeah, he's like, it opened up now. And then it was a $45,000 a year salary, which I think when I worked out, it was just slightly less than what I was making. So I felt like I was going backwards, and I was going to be stuck at that for a while I learned the new job. So I was hesitant, but he's like, no, like, I don't know when the next opportunity is going to open up. So if you say no now, it might be a while. I was like, shit. Okay. So anyway, so I decided to do it, and switched over to the office at the age of 22. And then that was probably when that really shaped me in I'd say the business world. Yeah, like my job was to get plans for new construction, see the roof, and then price the roof, submit it to the general contractor that was building it, like your PCLs, your Birds, your Wills McClelland, Those are some of the bigger names when I was doing it.
So you're dealing with other businessmen. You're an estimator. You're a sales guy. You have to understand your product, all that stuff. That really does translate into skills for a realtor down the road too.
Yeah, at the time I had no idea how much it would, but yeah, my job was to understand it all and then quote it. And then once I send a quote to a GC, it was following up because there was 3, 4, or 5 other companies that would bid on it. So then you got to follow up and see where was my number, how can I make it better, build a relationship, get them to pick you, right? Get them to pick your bid, or AKA in real estate, your offer. So I learned a ton through that. We had a lot of freedom. We got to negotiate pricing with the suppliers. We got to we had a range we could work in for setting prices, but we had a ton of freedom for hammering down a price of it to get a job and building relationships and going to site. So ton of respect for my dad there. And for those 4 years in that office, I worked alongside my dad and my cousin Tim. This wasn't just a small family company. Those were the 2 family members. That's it. Yeah. Everybody else in this company was really big wasn't. But Tim was a really smart guy. We shared an office together. We had a ton of fun together. He's kind of a bit of a genius in his own way. Tim is one of those rare human beings that could he could design something from scratch in his head, and then he'd draw it up and then go weld it together and put engineer it and then build the machine himself. Yeah. And then give it. He could do that. And that's usually you have someone that can design it and someone that can build it. Yeah. Very rare in life do you meet someone that's where it all goes together, right? Yeah. So it was really interesting to work with him because he had all these strengths that I didn't have as far as numbers and computers and stuff, but I had more personality strengths as far as building connections with people. Yeah. So he would encourage me working with the numbers and help me with all that side, the computer side of everything. And I would encourage him to following up and building relationships. And it worked really well. We're kind of a yin and yang, and we had a ton of fun together too. And that made work.
I did visit you. It must have been when I sold your house, because I do remember coming, seeing you and Tim in your office. So
yeah, it made work super fun. So I loved it. Yeah.
So then I sold you your house.
Yeah.
And then helped you and your dad.
Yeah. So that's kind of how I got into real estate. That's the perfect transition to real estate.
I want to say I asked you when I sold your house if you wanted to do real estate, but maybe I didn't. It might have been only once we started going to condo. So because I sold Brent's house, then his dad wanted to get into buying some. We tried for 2-bedroom rental condos, and Brent was a big part of that.
No, but this rewinded a bit. He approached me. He had heard from his partner who had bought a condo. This might be okay. This is a year later.
Yeah, after you bought?
After I bought. And then he approached me. He's like, hey, Brent, what if we were to buy some condos and you manage them? And I was like, well, what are you talking about? He's like, no, I'll kind of front the money. You pick the condo. You manage the renters. You do all this. And then we'll kind of split the profit at the end. And I was like, oh, I'm like, do that while I work for you here? He's like, yeah, we'll start with 5, but maybe we'll get to 20. And I was like, well, how am I going to do that and work for you? Right? I'm trying to figure this out. And he was kind of like, well, maybe you'll only do that. And my brain, I don't think he understands the significance of that conversation, but I went home, my brain went because my whole life, all my eggs were in the Raven Roofing basket. Yeah. Successful company. My dad owned it. This is what I'm doing. This is all I've done. And all of a sudden I went home that day and I'm like, I might not do this for my whole life. All of a sudden the world became this huge place where there was possibility and whatever. And it was kind of, I was like, oh, because I always thought he'd be super offended if I ever thought about leaving. Not that I wanted to leave, but as a son, that's what you think. No, you're going to totally disappoint your dad. And all of a sudden it was like, well, maybe we're going to do this. So we went down the road of condos without really a clear picture of where it was going to grow. But the goal was to buy 5 condos. And so I was like, Dad, I know a guy, because he wanted me to run it. So and that was you.
Did I help your dad buy 5 condos, or did I help your dad buy 3 or 4, and then he bought some later on?
I don't remember the exact timeline. Yeah.
But while we were doing that
must have been a cool call for you as a realtor to get a call from someone, because I haven't even had that call yet. Yeah. I've been doing this for almost 10 years now. It's like, hey,
it was awesome.
I want to buy 5 condos.
They were all $160,000, different than today, but it was still awesome. Yeah. So during that time, I do just remember posing the question, being like, hey, I was partnered with Dale, but Dale, so that's 10 years ago. He was early 60s. And I'm like, I know he's not going to be a realtor for a long time. I never wanted to do real estate on my own because I see other realtors just doing it on their own. It can be a, what's the word I'm looking for? Lonely job, right? Like you're up, down. There is you, yeah. I mean, there's times when Brent's busy or I was busy early on, and it's like you pull each other up, right? So it's a lonely job. So I was like, I don't ever want to just be on my own. I want to have a partner. You go on holidays, someone can cover you. There's lots of different reasons. And so I remember posing it to Brent, being like, and honestly,
but it didn't work like that. The very first time this started is when so we had bought a couple. I had now like looked into like, investing in real estate and crunching the numbers and whatever, and seeing different places in Abbotsford and like all the way in and going through the purchase process a few times. And I was like, this is pretty fascinating. Yeah. What you do kind of fascinated me. So I remember calling you and I was like, Darren, I want to ask you a lot of questions. And you're like, well, like, what do you mean? I was like, well, I want to ask you like how long you've been doing it, what you make, what your wife thinks of it, like what it's been like for you. Because I'm actually thinking about being a realtor. Like, are you comfortable in answering these questions?
I thought I asked first.
And then you were like, you were really gracious about it. You were like, yeah, like, let's do it. I'm totally fine with that. So you were so open. And then when we went out for lunch is when you asked me about it. Because I came in with the idea of just like trying to get educated from you. And I'm going to be a little bit, it's a long time. You shared already first couple of years. But so we went out for lunch and I was like, what are you making? I was making $80,000 a year on salary. Yeah. And my wife was pregnant with our second kid. I didn't have any money because I
do remember this conversation. Yeah.
Right? I didn't have any money because we had bought a house and like you're kind of living off one check, young family. Like it was basically all going towards that. And not that I didn't have any money, like you could do the odd holiday, but I wasn't stashing away money every year so I didn't have any savings. And anyway, so we go and I asked you, I was like, well, what'd you make in your first year in real estate? And
it was 54. Did I say it? It was like 40 to 50.
Yeah, somewhere in there. I think you said it was kind of like
it was low.
And then I asked you year 2, and it was also lower than 80. Yeah. And I think then year 3 was like somewhere around there. Yeah. So I was like, in my head when you told me that, I was like pretty deflated during this line. I remember being like, I can't do this because I can't make 30 grand my first year. Like we can't afford to live. I have kids. I got more.
But I also do remember saying like, you don't got to worry about it. Like I was pretty confident that you would get 80.
What you also said to me is you were like, hey, like, what if you said, I think you should do this, and I think we should partner up. Yeah. And I like that kind of blew my mind. I remember leaving that because I was so deflated because I was like, I can't afford to do this. And then we ended lunch with you kind of saying that and telling me to think about it. Yeah. Which like props to you. Like, so threw it out there.
Yeah, and the reason why in my memory was I was like, me and Brent are very different people, but have the same values, and that has not changed. No. Like, so that was a good like insight on my part, because there wasn't other people that I talked to about saying you should do real estate. Like you were the only guy, so it was just I'm not even gonna give myself credit. Like, give God credit for this, for putting it together, right? Yeah. But it was just, it made sense. Yeah. And I'm like, I can see something here, right?
It's been a nice business marriage, Darren. Yeah. We're guys, coming up on almost 10 years. Been reflecting on this lately. It's crazy. October is 10 years for Leffers and Rook, which is like, what?
I remember encouraging Brent, and I remember telling you, like, 'cause you're like, how many guys fail? And I'm like, yeah, there's guys that fail. I'm like, I know if you put the time in, you put effort in, and you put in like good solid weeks, you'll make a living. I remember saying that. And then I remember thinking this, I don't know if I told you this, but I was also like that. I told you would surpass me too, because you have a little more go-getter and a little more business in your bones, in your blood. So like I had no hesitation in telling you we should partner.
I do remember you actually telling me that. Yeah. Which I did not believe you at all. But I was like, I was so nervous and so excited.
I know what my pros and cons are, right? And I know, I don't know. I thought we'd be good partners. It has worked out really good, and I'm always happy to cheer people on. I really am.
And yeah, I would say that you are super supportive. So I leave this meeting and I'm like, I go home talking to my wife, and I was just like, babe, like, I think I'm gonna do this. Like, I just remember being like, this is crazy. I didn't know what to do. I'm like, how do I tell my dad, like, I'm going to leave roofing? Like, me and him talked about buying and selling condos, but this was like, if I was ever going to leave and manage condos, this was like 5, 10, 15
and we actually had a lot of chats before this. Me and you had like probably 5 or 6 chats in between all this.
So then it's like, it had only been 5 months since we decided to buy condos.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I'm like leaving. And I was so scared. I remember telling him, and he was like in shock. He's like, what? But he was like, I thought this was gonna be 5 years, not 5 months. Like I still remember him saying that. And then I kind of I left that conversation, but then later he was really supportive. He was like, hey, like I think you're gonna be good at this, right? Like he was like really supportive right away. He wasn't mad at you at all, no, either. He made jokes about that, yeah. And you know my dad, he could probably put on a really serious face and scare the crap out of you. But so that part went well. And then so I remember it was when we decided to do this, it was like March, and in April I signed up for the real estate course. I was still working full time at Raven, and then I was going to the course at night in Surrey, a couple nights a week. And yeah, my wife was pregnant with a second kid, so I was like doing all the other things in life, and also like going to real estate school twice at night. And then we did the course, and I was done in like August, and then licensed by mid-October. But I quit my job by the end of August and started in September. And for all you guys thinking about starting a business, like this is part of this reason we want to start this podcast, is to talk about business. So this would be a good time to like, you know, if you're thinking about starting a business, or you are, like, you're gonna relate. But yeah, so my moment of like terror was like leaving Raven August 31st. It was like 2017, right?
You had bought a house.
And I already owned a house, second kid on the way. I remortgaged my house to pull out $20,000. Like, I don't even know if that's worth the fees to remortgage your house. Now you look at it, like 20 grand, like people remortgage their house to pull out 100, but I literally had nothing else. So I was like, I need a $20,000 cushion in order to do real estate.
Yeah.
So I pulled out 20 grand, put it in my bank account, quit my job, step into real estate, where it's results-based business. As you know, you only get paid on commission. You only get paid on completion, without a clue how it was going to go. But I did have one thing. Like I was, because if you add all these things together, I was terrified to fail. My biggest fear in life was like, not being able to pay a bill, or like giving my wife a hard time, or like not being there for my kids, or walking with my tail between my legs back to Raven Roofing, being like, take me back. I failed. That's a pretty big motivator.
Yeah. That reminds me of, we could say this now. It's later on in the story, but a couple years later, your dad wanted you back.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how many years later was this? What did he offer you?
This is like 2 or 3 years later. I forget exactly. He's like, it was a bit of tongue in cheek in this, but he's like, son, like, you come back, $150K and a lariat.
No, it's like, I think it was $150K. And you're like, and he's like, what if I also get your lariat?
Yeah.
And you're just like,
yeah. By that time I tasted building something, right? And being your own. So it's special. But so that was the very, very start. And I was 27, partying with you. And so our structure was Dale and Darren were still partners, but they took me on together, and they said any new client, we're all going to split 33 with three of us.
Yeah.
And then any past client, you guys are going to give me 10% of, which I thought was like awesome, because I was like, well, if I'm not doing deals.
I think we were covering expenses to start too.
That's right. Yeah.
Right.
So I was like, that's exactly right. So I was like, if I'm not doing deals, I'm at least getting these 10% chunks to like keep me bumping along. Right. Yeah. And I want to have a really quick shout out. I don't know if he's ever going to listen to this, but Trevor DeHaas, this guy sat me down in September before I had my course finished. And he's like, I need to buy a place, a townhouse, and you're going to be my realtor. No, he owned a house. I had to sell and help him buy.
I had to sell it because you weren't licensed yet.
Yeah, that's right. So this guy was a friend of mine. I went to high school with him, but like I wasn't even at the course yet. He trusted me to sell his house and help him buy. So huge shout out to Trevor. That was like a huge confidence booster for me and momentum for what is now a long history in real estate, right?
Yeah.
So it's crazy.
And a client of mine bought his house. So
yeah,
it actually worked out
right.
well.
I actually remember going on those showings. So we had no idea what to expect. And with the new arrangement with Darren, I was like, hey, this should, like, I hope I make like close to, 80. But then we're 4 or 5 months in, and Darren and I were just arguing about this actually before we got on the air here. So we'll see how
we have to dig it up.
But we still got to dig out the exact facts. But as I remember it, Darren and I came out like a cannon, and none of us expected that. So I had done like 12 deals in my first 4, I think we're right around 4 months.
Well, Trevor was 2.
It was like, yeah, and we can go back and count, but it was like 4 or 5 months, like 12. Because we do know on the medallion list, it was 31 ends my first year.
That was the next year though.
Yeah, but there was right. So there's like 12 that we're not actually sure the number. Anyways, I remember the numbers being like, so because we were 3 partners, I was giving away 66% of everything I sold, giving away. That was just our split, and keeping 33% of what I sold. And then with Darren and Dale, they were also selling, but during that window, it wasn't as much. And they were all past clients. So I was only getting 10% back on what they were selling. So I remember looking at a spreadsheet a bunch of months in, and I was like, I had made like 30 grand in real estate. And I was like, if this arrangement was different, I'd be at like 100.
There's a couple times in our career where Brent has come to me and I know he wants to like get something off his back and I can just tell. And that was one of those ones.
That was one. So I remember sitting down with you guys and being like, I think like, cause you had my expenses covered too. And I remember saying like, this doesn't make sense. Like, here's the numbers. We either need to change this or else like, I'll just take my own expenses and whatever. Right. And it wasn't like, there was no animosity. I was just laying out the numbers. And I remember the very next day, and maybe you remember this slightly different, but you came back and you're like, hey, here's what we're going to do. Like, we're going to pay you back retroactively, and we're going to split everything 33 moving forward.
Well, no. So yes to the first part, and then Dale.
But that wasn't until a week later.
Oh, and then a week later, Dale's like, you know what? You guys are doing great. He's like, I don't want to benefit off of this. Like, you guys do your thing. I'm here as still a mentor. Mm-hmm. He might have even been part of our team for a while. I think he was. I think
he stayed for a bit, but yeah, he basically said that. I remember him saying like, I want to golf. Like, I want to go. What was he? 64, 65?
Yeah. And we're like, yeah, you should.
He's like, I want to golf. Yeah, I want to go away. And he could see like, I don't know, you could see the fire in our eyes. Like we were ready to build a brand and like make something here and be all in. And I'm sure I was a little bit crazier than you, right? Like he'd been with Calm Darren his whole career, and all of a sudden, this little firecracker comes in here. Like,
and ever since then, anytime he gave us a referral or something like that, we told him, we'll pay you a referral, but you need to get new golf clubs. And he never did.
No, I know. And we still like chat with Dale.
Frugal Dale.
Yeah. We still chat with him.
Generous but frugal.
Such a beauty.
Yeah.
And it left there was no animosity there. It was all very good. Like we still went out for lunch with him. He did mentor us. But since that moment, it was like 5-6 months in.
The only time you and Dale had animosity was on a golf course.
Yeah, that's right. I still remember that. That's Flaggate. Yeah. We'll have to talk about that one day.
Really quickly, Dale, we'll say it. It was great.
I was closer to the pin.
Par 3.
Dale.
KP. Was I even a part of it, or did I just...
No, we had a bet, me and him.
Yeah. Brent's in the bunker. But Dale's off the green. If he was on the green, he would have got it. Yeah. But Brent's in the bunker. And...
we said our KP didn't have to be on the green.
Yeah.
Just for money.
Yeah.
Closest to the hole.
And I'm like, I think Brent's closer. He's like, no, he's not. And argument back and forth. And then he says to this random foursome that joined us, he's like, I'm closer, right? And the guy didn't want to argue. So he's like, yeah. I pull out the pin. So like empirical evidence, call it. Brent's closer. And Dale's like, no, he's not. This guy said he's not. And I'm like, you know what? I'm out of it. And then that was funny to say. That was Brent and Dale's biggest animosity.
We never got it sorted. He still thinks his ball is closer to the hole. Dale wasn't closer to the hole. Man, oh man, so funny.
And usually I side with Dale.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's fun not to side with Brent. Yeah. But I was siding with Brent on this one, 100%.
Oh, man. Okay, so I'm going to bring it back to real estate. So we were partners 50-50 on everything starting April of that year. And it's like, look at us now, 10 years later, right? Like it's crazy, right? This partnership where it's gone. So I think we should...
Do we even go through the next 10 years? I feel like that's for another...
Well, yeah, we should probably... Let's not. We'll talk more about the growth of Leffers and Rook in another episode. It'd be good. But I think we should maybe say a couple things about, what have we learned? Let's reflect on a couple things like through this that you like. If you had advice for someone, and I'll go first maybe while you're thinking. I'm spurring this on you because I was actually thinking about this a bit because I want to ask future guests this when we get them on. But if I could look back on starting a business and growth and what it takes, I would say that 2 things that if you're an agent or in any business, you should know is number 1 for me is like follow up. Mm-hmm. When I was in roofing and I would submit a bid, I would get so many of them because I would wait till all the bids were in, call the property manager, build a relationship with them, and then follow up with him and then get the job. It didn't matter what the first price was. It mattered that he was going to go with me because I followed up. And in real estate, it's so important. Like following up with like any house, you obviously have a listing appointment and you're going to, but like following up with clients who told you 6 months ago they were thinking about buying, or following up with your database that bought 3 years ago, or following up with, it doesn't matter what it is. If you don't follow up, there's a way higher chance that you will not do that business in any business. But if you follow up, it shows hunger. It shows like eagerness. It shows that you're like thinking and remembering them. And I'd say if anything now, 10 years in, I feel bad that I need to, like, I want to follow up more, but like, you know, I mean, all glory to God, our database has gotten really big, and it's like, it's awesome. So sometimes you're just keeping up with what you got. But anyways, if I could say anything, especially realtors in any business, follow up. And then my second quick thing here is,
can I jump into that before you go to your second one?
Yeah.
It is a skill. It is something you just have to do, but it is a skill. I have a hard time sometimes with it because you don't follow up for a while and you feel bad making that call. You just got to make that call. Yeah. I just phoned a client whose birthday was yesterday. I phoned her yesterday. Hadn't talked to her in 2 years. The first thing she said, "I'm so glad you called." Mm-hmm. I was like, well, like, that's awesome. Yeah. And I don't know if anybody else phoned her on her birthday. That's right. She's like, "I seen your calendar thing you put in there, and your family and Brent. It's so nice to see your guys' growing families." I'm like, sweet, good to have this chat, right? Like, and I didn't phone her for me. I phoned her for her. Yeah. But it's like, I'm glad I did, right? Because so often you're like, should I? No, I don't do it, right? Yeah. So anyway.
No, that's a good point. Well, that ties right into my second one, which is not only follow up, but building relationships. Like, business isn't done by the perfect system and, you know, the perfect plan. Or some people get led to like, oh, all my systems are so good, and I got my calendar, I got my AI, I got my all this stuff. Like, business in general is relationships, and especially our business. Like, you could be just okay at real estate, but be really, really good at relationships, and you're gonna do better than the guy that's got real estate perfected with all the perfect systems, but doesn't know how to build a relationship.
Who you know over what you know.
Yes, life is who you know, not what you know, and I think that it's important to lean into those relationships wherever they are, like connect. And that's, again, that doesn't matter what business you're in. So like, I mean, that's the 2 words of wisdom that I want to try and leave for anybody.
Yeah. I would say, like, lean into your community. So it's always been a little bit of a struggle of mine for like not putting my name out there. Like, you know, asking people for business is tough, but if you don't ask, you don't get. I learned this from my son, who's 14. Like, we'll go to a Canuck game and he'll stand over the bleachers asking for hockey sticks. And I'm like shying away, being like, are they going to tell this kid to be quiet or get down? Yeah. He's got 6 NHL hockey sticks from these guys, maybe more, because he asked. So learning in life that it's like you sometimes need to be like, more no's is closer to your yes. Mm-hmm. That's something to definitely learn. I would say just trying to do a good job for people. There's a lot of people that are transactional. Going back to your relational side, mm-hmm. I do find a bit of a hard time like getting good long relationships with people, and maybe that's a little bit of my personality, but just doing a good job so that people know that you're in it for them, and we know we're going to make a living if we do a good job, right? But I would say that's one thing I've learned, and then the other would be personalities, and then strengths and weaknesses with those personalities. My wife hates personality tests.
So you're saying knowing personalities, educating yourself
your own
in the different types of people. Yeah, knowing yourself.
Knowing who you are.
Yeah.
Knowing who you're working with. Yeah. What your strengths and weaknesses are. Like, honestly, in a perfect world, like, if me and Brent wanted to go after land development, I'd be doing all the homework. Brent would be making the phone calls. That would be and we could kill. Like, it's not what we do, but if we're ever like, we want to try something different, right? And we kill it in that.
We've definitely learned who each other are. Like, Darren is like, he's like my second wife. And, you know, it's just like this, a business is a marriage when you've been partnered with someone for so long. And like, we are opposites, and don't kid yourself. Like, we can get into it. We have in the past, but like you said right from the start, we have the same values. We want the same things to our core, and we can get through any business thing that comes up. But I cherish our partnership because we are opposites. We understand that, and we've worked through a lot of it and helped each other grow because of it.
Yeah.
So
Brent's actually a lot like my wife. I don't know if I'm like your wife, but like
she's a lot better looking than you.
Yeah, that's probably very true. Yeah. But that's why it works if our relationships are working there, that's why this relationship works too, right? So, I would say to tie us all into why we're doing what we do, I think Brent and I can both look back. We both didn't think when we were younger we're going to be realtors.
No.
But if I look back at, the hard work I learned from stacking lumber and wrecking beaver dams, to doing some insurance, to doing working in the financial planning side, stocks and bonds, to then working for a developer, thinking about getting my mortgage license, understanding all that, and then being a realtor, all that was experience to when I became a realtor. Brent working for his dad, being an estimator, negotiating, understanding roof systems and building systems, totally prepped him for becoming a realtor.
Yeah,
right?
Everything led to this moment. And then together too, which is a crazy thing, right?
So what we're really looking forward to in this podcast is digging deep with people and understanding, no two roads are the same, and how people went from where they were to where they're at now, and maybe going into the future, how real estate ties into all that. But we're going to learn a lot, and we hope that people listening learn a lot from just people's stories and the roads they went down.
Yeah, so if that interests you guys, like this is our first crack at this, like, subscribe, leave a comment, something you want to see or hear about, or if this interests you. But we want to dive into people's story, people's businesses, like Darren said, something that we both love and we hope you guys love. And it's going to be different than just typical real estate. It's going to be
And we got
stories.
a big list of people that we want to interview with what we know are going to be some awesome stories. If you guys know of somebody who has, we might call it. If you know of somebody who has a great story that people should learn and can or should hear and can learn from, reach out to us. We'll make it happen.
Yeah. So
there we go.
That's it for today.
Till next time.
See you, fam.
Thanks for watching and listening. We'll see you guys next time.